But one advertisement in this past week, it really caught my eye, and I left it on my dining table. Like every time I walked back and forth, I would look at this advertisement, and it said, "Give joy." Give joy. And I thought, I absolutely give joy. Now that sounds like a good thing to give, does it not? But I was pondering, am I really able to give joy to someone else? Now, I can give physical things to people. I could give you money. That would bring a certain delight, maybe, and maybe fill a real need. I could give you dinner, which would be fun and would build community between us. I could give you some kind of physical gift, a tangible item. And of course, as your minister, I try and hope that I'm giving you emotional and spiritual items, and they're not really things, but I want to give you my close and careful attention. I want to give you my love and compassion. I want to give you my blessings and my prayers. But can I or can you really give someone else joy? Joy, this word that we've been talking about all month, that we've been considering in the context of all of these big winter holidays. So if you remember back to 2 weeks ago, on December 1st, we were reminded that there can be an elusive joy in our lives, especially during this season that asks so much of us. And it was a reminder that if you're one of the people that doesn't really feel a lot of joy or happiness right now, that's okay. If your divine threads are feeling a little dull and frayed, that's okay. And that Sunday you took home an evergreen branch to remind you that there can be a joy or some kind of spiritual connection that runs underneath us even when we're feeling immersed in grief or despair. And then if you were here last Sunday when our intern minister Liz Murphy was in the pulpit, Liz helped us call to mind all the simple things in our life that bring joy. And in a moment of stillness, she encouraged us to call to mind what those were and to come down front and to light a candle for those simple joys. Does anybody remember what you called to mind last week? Yeah, some of you do. I was a little embarrassed. The image that was forefront in my mind was my friendly little black cat, Braven. And I just thought, well, you know what? Good for Braven for being the joy in my life right now. So on Christmas Eve, if you're here on the 24th at 5:30 p.m., we'll end our service together by singing Joy to the World. And in the lyrics, we will sing out our hope that heaven and nature will sing as gladness reigns, as love surrounds us. But those of you who have been coming to church recently know that at least for me, joy hasn't really come so easily this year. My heart and my mind have really been with my mom, who's been in the hospital for a long time. So most of my life, I've always said that I have a pretty consistent, low-level, positive hum that runs underneath most things I do. It just happens to be the radio setting that I was put on. But it seems like this season, my joy-o-meter, if there is such a thing, that it may need a little bit of repair. And so as I think about what could repair it, I come back to that question. Is it possible for us to give someone else a sense of joy? So joy is different, of course, from a sense of contentment. And when I think about contentment, the image that comes to mind is me getting home from work, sitting on my couch in the evening, the candles are lit, the cats are quiet and sleeping and looking adorable. It's an introverted moment. And I've just opened a brand new mystery novel. I'm going to dive in. I'm so content in that moment. So joy's different from pleasure. And if I go with my own image of me on the couch with the book, the thing that would introduce some pleasure into that moment would be one square, maybe two, of dark chocolate. That I'd try my best to savor, but I'm going to end up biting into it at some point. And that too is its own kind of pleasure. And then joy's different from happiness, which if we're still there in my living room, the happiness might erupt if the cats wake up and decide for some reason, always unknown to me, they chase each other wildly through the house and look so adorable doing it. So contentment and pleasure and happiness. But I feel like still those are not equating necessarily into what I would say is joy, though you might say it's joy. So last weekend, Jonathan and I attended the wedding of a dear friend, and some of you know her, Reverend Megan. She's a community minister in affiliation with Troop, and she's preached here a couple of times. And so weddings, of course, bring up a lot of complex emotions, do they not? I mean, we go in and we're happy and excited for the wedding couple. It's a big party. We see people we haven't seen in a long time. But there can be bittersweet feelings that come as well. For parents, there may be that deep gladness that their child is getting married, but there's also this sense of, my child's getting married. How did that happen? And now they're going off kind of on their own, and they're going to be their own adult and live their own life. And friends, of course, are really happy and excited, but maybe you also have a sense of, am I losing my friend? Will we still get to go on our weekends hiking and doing things that we love together? Or are they going to shift into kind of a new mode of existence, maybe a little more separate from me than they had been before? And if you're someone who has been down that aisle yourself and has been married or part of a union ceremony, you may sit there and recall the person you were when you were standing at the altar however many years ago and thinking about those vows that you said many years ago. You might reflect on how faithful you've been to those vows, how faithful you've been to the hopes and dreams that you put into that marriage. And when the preacher says for better or for worse, you may really think about all the better times and all the worst times. Just kind of sit in amazement that there you are still together with that partner, or maybe even sit there and think sadly, I'm not together with that partner anymore. And surely there are people in the room who were once married and their beloved has transitioned out of this life. And so as the preacher gets to those words that say in sickness and in health, you might recall your own journey through the sickness times with that partner and all that it brought up in you and all that got you to this place that you are now with your partner now gone. And so there you are if you're at the wedding, and there all of us were at Reverend Megan and Stephanie's wedding, this collection of people, some of us who knew each other and some of us who didn't, and all of us sitting with whatever emotions and memories and hopes and ponderings that we had brought into that wedding space. As we were sitting there, eager, ready, anticipating that moment where the music starts up and the wedding party will start coming down the aisle, just as the string quartet was picking up their instruments and played just the first couple of notes, out of nowhere came the shrill, high song of a blue jay. And we all did just that, and we put down our phones and stopped worrying about what they were going to serve for dinner and stopped our wandering minds, and we all turned and we listened to this incessant blue jay singing its song and offering his blessings onto Stephanie and Megan. It completely brought us into the moment in a way I don't think anything else could have. Certainly not a preacher's words or our own memories or something falling over. We laughed at the song that was set to its own beat that was completely out of sync with whatever it was that string quartet was going to play. And that bird brought us, as I said, 100% into the now, connected in a new way with each other, and also through its song connected in some ways to that which is greater than any one of us. We were connected into the sacred breathing energy of the universe. Mary Oliver wrote, "Attention is the beginning of devotion." The moment that something catches our attention, we cease to become detached from it. And for me, the blue jay capturing all of our attention and bringing us so fully into that moment, that was my joy. Arriving in this small, unexpected, very loud package, reminding me that I am one part of the interconnected web of life, and that no matter where my own heart and mind are, that the birds continue to sing. So each one of us has our own way of welcoming that type of joy into our lives. Maybe that type of joy comes to you through the notes of a song, through music, through singing. Perhaps it comes to you through art or acting. Perhaps it comes to you through seeing the theater or making food for friends or learning. And as I looked back over these last few months where I have felt really just bereft and out of sorts, I tried to pinpoint those moments where I did indeed feel just a little bit of that joy in my heart and soul. And I realized for me it does come through these unexpected, natural acts. Through that bird song from the blue jay. Once it was a perfectly shaped, bright red maple leaf that I found outside my mom's hospital. I just picked it up and took it in and showed it to her, and she could touch it, a little bit of the outside world in that sterile environment. Right now for me, it's also the tender green shoots of the spring bulbs that are poking up out of the ground after all these winter rains that we've been having. Talk about looking expectant. It's those bulbs. Soon, in a little over a week, we'll come here. It'll be the evening. The light will be streaming through the stained glass windows. There'll be candles lit all in the sanctuary. And at the end of the service, you'll have your own candle, and we together will sing Joy to the World. We'll hold those candles high. We'll be welcoming back the sun. We'll be holding hope that peace and gladness will move with us into the new year. Our Unitarian Universalist version of that hymn, our version of the hymn speaks not to a second coming of the Messiah, but our version of that hymn speaks to the divine dwelling among us in the here and now. It speaks of blessings that abound all around us, the holy residing in the sun and the color and the fragrance of the flower. And of course, as we sing it, it's a reminder that the divine dwells in you too. This season, may you grow in love. May you bless the world all around you and continue to connect with the small, unexpected gifts that bring you joy. We sing together our closing hymn, O Thou Joyful Day, number 236. Please rise as body and spirit allow.